Hey, um, for as punctual as I like being, I never seem to start these on time. I'm always like a minute or two late. I sit down and then I just keep sitting and staring and wondering what on earth I'm gonna say. Huh. Hmm. Anyway, instead of getting home from work and taking a nap or something like I usually do, I ended up going to a sports bar kind of place and watching a soccer game because I wanted to. So God, I had no idea what's going on. I can tell you that what's been on my mind lately has just been the illusion of spirituality in church. But really, it seems to be what I talk about most of the time in different words. Somebody passed along a video to me about exposing faith healers, talking about how they use hypnosis techniques, stuff like that. And I like just calling them out, exposing them, and putting a video out there of it. Like, these people act all spiritual. They'll get the constipated look and call somebody up for prayer after they filled out all of these little welcome cards. Some of these people were forging, just using a different name. So this super spiritual pastor called them the name that they wrote on the welcome card instead of who they actually were. That's just an embarrassment. It's despicable that they would just counterfeit what God wants to do. And I've been just going through First Corinthians over and over and over and over. I like listening to it, but when I'm at work, sometimes I get interrupted, even if it's for like 20 minutes at a time, and it takes an hour to listen to it. So I'll just try and jump back in wherever I can and go from there. And I just like how real Paul is with those people, those formerly godless, sense-filled perverts, and just shooting straight with them. He's talking about, that one thing. Church, Jesus wanted to be countercultural in a way, but not the way it is right now. Not at all. Not to the point where it's a bunch of individual cesspools that meet up on Sunday mornings and then call it good and go back to blending in with the rest of the world the rest of the week. And Paul talks about that some. He talks about how you got this one guy in your church people are doing things not even godless people even think about doing. They don't even talk about it. They don't even entertain the idea. Some dude is hooking up with his dad's wife, and then all these churches are like, well, God, let's hope it was his mother-in-law or stepmom. And it's like, if the Gentiles aren't talking about it, let's just get realistic about how bad things were. we can read some stories just to get a grasp of how bad the Gentiles were. They didn't have God. They didn't have much they didn't have much holding them back. But Yeah, stuff like that. And then Paul goes on, he's like, when I told you not to hang out with perverts and drunks and people like that, I didn't mean the people out there outside the church. Otherwise, you'd have to just quit existing if you're going to avoid them. It just lights into them. So, I was talking about people in the church. God judges the people outside the church. They're not the ones trying to abide by the same standard we are. We have this same standard, everybody in this same building, in this church, with this same goal. How are we not supposed to hold each other to this same standard? But we're going to run around and judge all these people that don't even care about God, and then wonder why they don't care about God. Stupid. I used to think it would be so cool to get a job at church. Just be around it all the time. Holy, holy, holy. I'm so glad that God spared me from myself. Looking at it now, that would have just been terrible. I wouldn't have even been able to develop my own identity, just because it seems like so many church employees have to walk on eggshells with all these church patrons. And to be honest, I didn't even see Jesus doing that much. Like the woman at the well, he's cool enough with her. The chick caught in adultery, he treated her like a person. This woman that was following behind all of Jesus and the disciples, screaming about healing her kid and blah blah. And then he calls her a dog, and then she just turns it right upside down. And then Jesus is like, "Whoa, all right, well, I see you mean what you're saying." But just being able to get more of an outside perspective of church. I don't run around telling everybody, but I haven't gone for a while. every once in a while, I'll see church people where I work just coming in and just whatever, just for a couple minutes, and then they'll see me. They'll come over and just subtly check up on me, see if I got a pentagram tattooed on my forehead or whatever. So, how's it going? What you been doing? So, I've just been working, mind my own business, doing my thing, Haven't seen you for a while. Yeah, I know. It's depressing when you can hear good, thoughtful people say they feel closer to God since they stopped going to church. And I love working around people that don't go to church. They can just be real. I can just be real. We can all be cool. They all know what I'm about. Sometimes I'm not the best representative. Seem to always have stories about that. I'm going to skip some, like all the recent ones. But then there's this one chick there that's more outspoken about God. She ended up making some comment, and thought it was kind of made me speechless, which doesn't happen too much. So I passed along to one of the other guys at work. He's like, "Oh yeah, good little Christian like her." I forget what it was exactly. I think it had some kind of sexual connotation or something. So I sat on that for a little while. I went back to this guy because I'm good enough friends with him. I work with him like 4 or 5 days a week. I was like, "Hey, so you think that about me too?" Because I had to come home and have a sober chat with God about things I need to work on, which I should do anyway. Anyway, he's like, no, man, you're cool. You don't just get all preachy about it. I was like, well, it's kind of a pass. And this guy, chat with him some the past couple days, said he started going to some substance abuse meetings. 8 days clean. Started going to church. Big Unitarian church. Same place that has these substance abuse meetings. And you mentioned it before about how I gotta stop doing this and that. And, you know, the wife wants to start going to church again. And there was times where I asked God, and it's like, hey man, you want me to volunteer? Like just, hey, you want to meet up for some seltzer water or something? We just talk about God and about church. And it seemed like it didn't happen. And at first I thought it was just me putting roadblocks up in my way because I may have been having a little bit of a roll with my temper earlier that day. So it may have been just me putting the brakes on. I was like, God, I don't want to get in the way of this. I just want to, am I doing something wrong here with this guy? Do I need to just step up? Do I need to do anything? And then, best I can tell, God told me to just keep shaping up more than I have been, and to just keep waiting, keep working on myself, keep being around him, and just being realistic with him, because he's not hungry enough for God right now. Because it's supposed to cost something when we start following God. Jesus never made that a secret. He didn't come to bring peace but a sword, to turn this family member against that family member. You know, there wasn't everything that I've heard and read and understood about Jesus. There wasn't much room for gray area with him. You're either a fan or you want to start carrying around some rocks in your pocket for when he started talking about God again. It's funny because the Pharisees always seem to just follow him around. Don't you have people you're supposed to be like watching or like doing wave offering to God or something? What are you doing following this guy around all over the hillside? Anyway. Jesus didn't really leave much room for compromise. And I've been working on that. Of course, I got it down to like where it's compartmentalized, where there's some things that you're like, well, I just might do it one more time. It's a little bit. It's just, and then there's some stuff that I'm just not going to deal with. So, you know, that's just more me looking out for myself, meeting my own needs, desires, whatever, not leaving room for God to do much with those parts of me. But the best seems like the best way to represent God is just not trying to pull punches. I mean, honestly, it seems like church people are some of the worst judges of character ever. I don't know how this person ended up just robbing me blind and beating me half to death. I brought him into my house for lunch, and all of a sudden, turn around and I see a lampshade just about to beat me over the face with a lamp. I don't know. And then you got people that couldn't carry the way about God. They're just being themselves. And they're just like breaking down this person and like their issues. So I do that. It's pretty impressive. Guess there's something to be said about living truth, not just trying to be deceitful, not trying to be more than you are, not trying to follow in somebody else's footsteps. There's this place I work. It's liberal enough. It's a pretty good melting pot. I've gotten to the point where if I see some lady with way too much makeup, I don't even think twice. I just assume it's either a cross-dresser or some dude becoming a woman. That's reality, man. No sense hiding from it. Turns out those people are people too. They might just have a different kind of emotional defect than you. No sense trying to judge them and then wonder why they don't want more of God. Come on. Another fun thing to do is with some people that are freshly hired, the fresh meat, getting all broken in with orientation and all that, learning the ropes. Sometimes it's hard to tell if they were homeschooled or if they're just gay and not very secure about it. So there's plenty of secure gay people where I work, and they're some of the coolest people. And then there's the ones that just always looking behind their back, waiting. I say, man, if you don't even believe in what you're doing, why are you doing it? Another guy at work, he's kind of neurotic, and it's fun to mess with him because he's such a good sport about it. But then he started getting some help for it. Started taking some meds, and now he's just like constantly stoned, like he just lost his personality. It's like, dude, that sucks. Come back. Guess the most frustrating thing, just where I'm at right now, and just what I've been dealing with, is just a complete, well, maybe not complete, but a lack of conviction. Mostly in the church, those are the ones that bother me. People outside the church, what do we have to do with judging them? Get to know them. Paul talks about creation, about God being evident in creation. And what if that doesn't just mean the birds and the bees and the trees and the weeds and the roads and whatever? What if we can find God through music somehow? I don't know about like electronica music, stuff like that. You'd have to look pretty hard. But that's just my opinion. What if we start looking for God in stories from people that don't believe in God? People that just have a good insight into human souls, into human emotions, into how people work, what makes them tick. What if we start looking for God in places like that? What if God starts helping us find him in places like that? Evangelization just became 10 times easier. We can start meeting all these atheists or agnostics or apatheists that don't even care. Meeting them on their ground. God forbid, though, because every new technology is clearly demonic because it's not completely understood. Just like TV was, or radio was, the internet was. Now all of a sudden, Christianity's like 20 years behind the curve. And they're like, God, where'd you go? And I was like, I was trying to get you on board in the first wave. So try and catch up. But lack of conviction. What What means something to you? Is it God? Does your lifestyle reflect that? Do your choices reflect that? In the past week, how much have you reflected that? That God means everything to me and not just talked about it and sang about it at church. Then went home and stole some sporting event off TV, pirated it, streamed it illegally. But I love God. Those people don't deserve my money, though. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you ought to get to know God. He'll set you straight about some things, so then maybe he can help you out. Christians shouldn't be looking for ways to cheat the system. I'll be looking for ways to go above and beyond. As an example, and then maybe Christians can have a chat about morality and ethics and values. You who preach do not steal, do you steal? There seems to be this lowball of pain tolerance in church. We talk about how I know I'm preaching something hard, and it's like barely a slap on the wrist. It's like, dude, are you serious? This is supposed to be something difficult? What's going to happen if God tries to set somebody straight about something and you're telling them this is hard? Where's your standards at? What? Who are you trying to appease? Because if it was God, you'd be trying a whole lot harder. There'd be a whole lot more division in it. Because God says, hey, this is so, this isn't so, this is right, this is wrong. Not, oh, we'll get there, one step at a time. If you want it, step up and grab it. If you don't know how, God will help you step up and grab it. If you want to, God will be right there to meet you. Paul talked about nobody's tempted beyond what they can bear. You know, with every temptation comes a way out. Well, shouldn't I have to want the way out to take the way out? It's not a temptation if it's not something I want. So it's my problem if I screw up, and it's nobody else's. It's not, I don't have a right to justify losing my temper at work. I can point out reasons it happened, yeah, but that doesn't make it, that doesn't vindicate me from it. One of my biggest fears, to be honest, is just, you start seeing people just get weird when they talk about God's love and how it's so deep and wide and infinite. And then they just start getting kind of spineless. And I didn't see Jesus being spineless, but I saw Jesus having God's love and having the stones to be honest with people, to the point where they were ready to kill him. And then all of a sudden he's just average looking enough to fit into the temple with everybody else, despite this horde looking for him to kill him. But that, to be honest, that's the biggest reason I'm slow going with my temper. I'm trying to learn how to refine that instead of just going headlong into being a non-confrontational coward. That is not what I want out of a relationship with God. That conviction, that's what drives us. That's what's going to make us put our money where our mouth is. I mentioned before that I was trying to start getting in shape. So my legs have been on fire for like 3 weeks. And There was one day last week where the thought popped in my head. It's like, man, I can go running today. And I thought, no, I got this and this and this going on. I'm going to run this day this week. And then that night, I had this terrible, terrible dream. Like I was playing soccer, and then like I just had nothing, just no more energy at all. Like it's just completely dead-legged, and the whole game just happened around me. And I was just standing in the middle of the field. And then I woke up like 45 minutes before my alarm. that whole turn of events just set the mood for the day. But I'm not gonna get stupid and over spiritualized and be like, God was telling me this and this, or it was demonic, or whatever. It was, I got a goal. I want to meet it. And my conscience is like, hey, kick it into gear. You got no right to be lazy if you want this to happen. Whether God was a part of it or not, it got the point across. So I'm not running again yesterday. Oh, my quads are on fire again. But it's something that I want to do. Just a personal thing. That's not trying to brag or anything like that. If I was bragging, I wouldn't be talking about how much I'm still sucking wind when I go for a jog. Just that's something I'm working on. That's where I'm at. But who are we trying to please? It's pretty easy to tell when a person's trying to please another person, trying to get their approval. It's even easier to tell when they start waffling back and forth between trying to be themselves and trying to be what they were groomed for. It's like you're watching this identity crisis happen in real time. You're like, yeah, I actually kind of feel bad for you because you just seem so confused. I mean, what if you never get that head nod from this person? What happens then? What happens if you don't get the reaction you want? Are you just gonna have a breakdown? Then what? I used to be so scared of just going off the deep end when I pushed church people away. And then now I can see that was one of the best things for me. Because you see these super spiritual people just always on the lookout for somebody to mentor. I will pray for you. So yeah, okay. You can barely hear God for yourself and you want to help me. All right. I used to hide behind my issues too in the name of ministry. I still do sometimes, but I'm getting a lot better about catching it. But it just seems, well, as far as with me, I like that God's not afraid to just shoot straight with me. I was just like, I was sitting in the living room, putting my shoes on before work one morning. And all of a sudden I hear something. I just don't know if it was God or not. I was still waking up. But there wasn't really anything negative about it. And then I got to work. I started coming to myself, started waking up, thinking about it. The more thought I put into it, the more real, the more unsettled I became. And sometimes that's just how I know it's God. It can be something like, hey, the world's going to end tomorrow. And then I finish putting my shoes on, drive to work, start waking up, and I go, wait, what? 3 hours later. It's like getting a hug, a big bear hug from Uncle Buck, or you're just smothered, but you know you're safe. That's what I like about God. That's one way he's really been able to help me out. He doesn't try and be nice about it or sugarcoat it or hide it and act like it's not there. It's like, hey, son, we got this problem that needs to be fixed. Or, hey, I'm not responsible for responding to your pride when you ask questions just because you want to know something. It doesn't really have any relevance to what's going on, and all it does is interfere with how much you need to learn how to trust me. All right, God. Okay. All right. I surrender. But where do we draw the line when it comes to getting to know God? We draw the line where it comes to having to forfeit certain friendships just because of the value we hold them in or the value we place on them. That seems to be the main one. All these people talk about how hungry they are for God and how much they love God, and they'll do anything for God, and then all of a sudden, God's starting to move them a little perpendicular to how they act with their friends, and then all of a sudden they start having this identity crisis and getting all manic. And then what? Well, God, you can take me away from my friends. These people go to church. Yeah, they go to church, but they don't have much to do with God outside of just talk. I like just helping people. I've learned so many different things just from helping people, just jumping in and doing it. And at this church for a while, I was running the camera. It's just, that's needed to be done. Something I could do there anyway, whatever. So then, man, that was I don't know, 3-4 years ago. And then one day God's like, hey, you don't got to keep doing that. Give somebody else a chance. Time for you to move on. Take the next step forward. Let somebody else step up to where you used to be, and then learn how to fill that role. Again, do that kind of volunteer work. Let somebody else minister the way they know how, where they're at. So, all right, that's cool. I can do that. I don't know how long, maybe a year or two, nobody stepped up. It was just the same guy doing it all the time. It's like, dude, I feel bad for this guy. Do you want me to just help him out once in a while? And God's like, no, it's somebody else's turn. They need to step up. I don't know if they ever did or not. But why get so concerned about not knowing what you're going to look like when you follow God, not knowing what your ministry is going to look like? I mean, what? Is the problem just not having that confidence in hearing God? Put your heart in the right place, keep it in the right place, and all of a sudden God becomes much more of a person to you. You stop looking at formulas and how this person did it and this person did it. Those are springboards, yeah. That's a place to start, because you don't start getting to know God by stealing from people, by killing people. Let's find some place to start. But after that, how is there a formula you're supposed to find outside of God for the person that God's wanting you to be? If he's not wanting you to be like somebody else, there's enough room in Christ for everybody. And we're still trying to follow a handful of people like lemmings. Anyway, one of the most crucial lessons God got across to me a while back was that it's okay to be scared. It's absolutely okay to be scared. When that starts dictating decisions and that fear starts getting in the way of trying to hear God, of just being able to stop and put everything on hold and figure out where God is, get my bearings again, that's when it becomes a problem. But just having like this knee-jerk reaction of fear, like God didn't see that coming. God's like, you have no reason to be scared. Yeah, right. That's not God. He's a lot more understanding than most of the people that represent him. Like me sometimes at work. There was, I don't know if I said this, there was a guy from another branch in town, and he was over, and I've known him for a while now, because I came from there. So he came over, he was helping out for a little while. He was like, hey, you still got that YouTube channel? I said, oh, crap. How do you find out about that? So, well, I contribute every once in a while, but I don't have a personal channel. He's like, oh, yeah, I remember some people over at the other place talking about it. Like, oh. That was probably people I was a jerk to. We're all learning. We're all growing. And it probably was people I was a jerk to. So, sorry. Like I said, I just don't want to turn into one of those spineless, non-confrontational doormat Christians. So I might still go a little overboard in the wrong direction with my temper. But it's not something I'm trying to hide from God. Because he means more to me. Being able to grow up with him, having him help develop me like a trainer. And then being able to get to the end of my life knowing I didn't miss it. That means more to me than throwing a fit. Sometimes they might be running about 50-50 at work. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to stop working on learning how to give my temper to God. So, I guess that's where I'm at. Yeah. We'll see where things are in a couple weeks. Love you guys. Peace.